Picture a modern office right now. You know the one. Screens are literally everywhere, dashboards are glowing, alerts are pinging nonstop, reports are just piling up, and right in the middle of all that chaos, there is one person. Or, let's be real, maybe one highly advanced AI trying desperately to manage absolutely everything. Well, let's dive into this, because this is exactly where the future of work is kind of stuck right now. You see, most people ask, how smart is the AI? But in this explainer, we're asking a much deeper, honestly more important question. How do multiple intelligent systems actually collaborate responsibly?
Because, something strange happens when intelligence becomes genuinely useful. At first, having one powerful AI agent feels like absolute magic. It's fast. It's incredibly capable. It really feels like you've unlocked this amazing superpower. But then, as you start relying on it more and more, one day, it just starts to feel incredibly crowded. That exact system that was supposed to free up your time suddenly becomes this massive, overloaded bottleneck.
Yeah, just think about the crushing weight of it all. We ask a single system to check the evidence, run the complex analysis, retrieve company policy, draft a clear explanation, prep for a review, repair its own errors, monitor the network, and then communicate the final result. I mean, it's just way too much for one workflow. The agent ends up carrying the responsibility of an entire department, all packed inside one single name.
But here's the thing. The problem was actually never the system's intelligence. An AI's intelligence is undeniably powerful and fast. The real problem, it's responsibility. When you have one agent trying to do absolutely everything, the responsibility becomes blurred, it gets hidden, and it is completely overloaded. So if a mistake happens, you basically have zero idea where the logic actually failed.
Which brings us straight to the central question of this explainer. What actually happens when one intelligent system is simply no longer enough?
Chapter 1. The Responsibility Split.
So progress naturally creates complexity. And complexity, if we're going to manage it safely, absolutely requires a division of labor. The big question is how that overloaded worker transforms into a specialized team. Let's imagine a retail investigation for a second. Instead of one agent trying to do the whole shebang, we separate the tasks. We give them roles. The evidence agent, it cares deeply about source quality. The analysis agent handles the complex trends. The policy agent retrieves the specific rules. The explanation agent drafts the clear summary. And finally, a supervisor agent handles the assembly of it all. Every single member has a visible, completely distinct role.
Okay, let's lock this in with a memory card. Responsibility before agents. Because a highly functioning team doesn't start by just randomly throwing more AI bots into a workflow just because the tech is cool. Actually, adding more agents like that can just multiply your confusion. A real team begins only when you take those hidden responsibilities and make them visible.
So let's test that logic out real quick. Which comes first? A, more agents, or B, more responsibilities?
It's B for sure. You've got to write the responsibility list first. You only bring in a new agent when a specific piece of work genuinely deserves separate ownership and a totally separate pair of eyes.
Chapter 2. Clear Promises. Now this right here is the absolute heart of making AI teams actually work. It's all about the role. Because an agent's limits, they matter just as much as its capabilities. Every useful team has to start with clear promises. A role boundary defines exactly what an agent owns, what it supports, and critically, what it absolutely must not decide. For example, in one test run from our source material, an explanation agent drafted a summary and confidently used the word immediate for a product reorder. Now that sounded incredibly helpful, right? But that one single word exposed a dangerous lack of boundaries. The explanation agent was only supposed to summarize wording, not authorize a major business action.
And that story brilliantly illustrates the divide. On one side, there is what an agent explicitly owns, like, say, the evidence agent, verifying that yesterday's inventory data is actually fresh. And then there is what an agent must not decide, like an AI recommending a final high-cost business action without any human review. These boundaries turn raw, unchecked ability into trusted, reliable assistance. A defined role. It isn't about ego, it's entirely about traceability.
Which brings us to our next visual mantra. Memory card, clear role, clear edge. Because think about it. An agent without a strictly defined edge will quietly, almost invisibly, step into another agent's territory. And that overlapping gray area? That is exactly where catastrophic mistakes like to hide.
Chapter 3. The Handoff.
Okay, so we've got our perfectly defined roles, but what actually happens in that crucial space between the agents? Like, why can't these agents just pass their final results to each other and call it a day?
Well, it's because the gap between agents is where meaning is most often lost. Just look at the precise anatomy of a safe handoff packet. It is way more than just passing a number. If the evidence agent hands work to the analysis agent, it absolutely has to include the goal, the evidence used, the missing context, the uncertainty limits, and the next action needed. If an agent just blurts out, hey, sales dropped 18%, without mentioning that the promotional data is totally missing, the next agent is going to confidently make the absolute wrong assumption.
A handoff is not information transfer. It is responsibility transfer. Just let that profound first principle sit with you for a second.
Right. Memory card, pass. Meaning, not just output. The next agent in the workflow needs the warning label just as much as it needs the final result. Honestly, a result without its limits is basically just a trap waiting to be sprung.
Exactly. But passing meaning also requires something we call shared context. Basically, same room, same reality. It's the carefully selected common ground an agent team uses to stay totally aligned. Imagine if the evidence agent is using yesterday's inventory, right? But the analysis agent is looking at the last 30 days of sales. The final answer they spit out might sound beautifully coherent, but the underlying work is a complete mess. Shared context ensures no agent quietly walks into a totally different story.
Chapter 4. The Human Element. And this really brings us to the ultimate question of our explainer. Once that supervisor agent perfectly coordinates all these specialized, highly technical findings, who actually makes the final call?
Well, here is the resolution. First, we have the agent team. Their job is to reduce the confusion, prep the evidence, and surface the risk. But ultimately,
we have the human supervisor. Because money is spent by people, customers are affected by people. Agents can prepare these decisions beautifully, but humans carry the consequence. Humans protect the value, and humans apply the final judgment.
So exactly when do we trigger a human review gate? We do it for unusual edge cases, high-cost business changes, policy exceptions, customer-facing messages, and critically, anytime the agent evidence disagrees. An agent team should never, ever force an agreement just to sound unified. You see, human supervision isn't a failure of automation. Not at all. It is a profound respect for reality.
I absolutely love this guiding philosophy from the source text. Speed asks for a lamp. When a system can act, let the human hand stay near the switch. It just beautifully anchors the emotional and ethical core of everything we've unpacked today.
Which brings us to our final memory card, summarizing the core transformation of this whole journey. One smart worker is useful. A responsible team changes everything. We've officially shifted our mindset from raw, chaotic intelligence to structured, responsible collaboration.
So you can now confidently say, I understand how intelligence becomes a team. But I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. Do your workflows. Take a really hard look at your own systems tomorrow. Look at your handoffs, your shared context, and your human boundaries. Are you just adding more agents to the noise, or are you actually building a responsible team? Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.